So, it has now been just around 72 hours since the raid launch, and majority of the people have gotten at least their first clear. This means it's time for my thoughts on the raid, contest mode, mechanics, and level design. The raid did have a bit of a rocky start this time around, with Anteater, Bat, and Guitar error codes running rampant, but once those subsided, the real raid experience began. The intro to the raid, pre-first encounter, is a lot more enjoyable than the opening to Vogue. It's relatively quick once everyone knows where the knowledge spawns, so it doesn't feel like it's too long. But I wouldn't have minded if they got rid of the last pit stop. It felt kind of out of place for me. The first encounter is very well done, as an introduction to symbols present throughout the whole raid, and just a nice encounter to get done once you get the hang of it. As a whole, it is probably the worst encounter in the raid, but that does not mean it is bad. It is just not as good as the rest. I don't really have anything else to say about this encounter. It's basic, simple, made for you to understand some early mechanics, and that's about it. Then you have to keep making your way through until you reach the Caretaker. This boss was a very, very tight damage check on contest mode. My team took a solid 6 hours or so to get through this. Then you had to keep making your way through until you reached the Caretaker. This boss was a very, very tight damage check on contest. My team took a solid 6 or so hours to get through this because of ammo, and the damage was just really tight. Even with the struggle of this encounter, it is phenomenal. The closest comparison to this boss would be King's Fall's Golgoroth fight, but done right. The whole stunning the boss to prevent him from reaching the obelisk to allow the other team to complete the obelisk, I really enjoyed. Since if your runners go fast, less stuns required, but if you make a mistake, you can compensate with extra stuns. The verticality of this encounter also just added to the concept of sheer size to the pyramid, and made you feel small. The final stand was also cool in a way where there's technically an extra damage phase, but with no chance to get ammo coming directly after third damage. But also working similar to Taniks, in which if you don't hit final stand at the end of the third damage phase, you just carry health over into final stand instead of just wiping. Now, everyone hypes up Deep Stone Crypt's soundtrack and just the feel of the jumping section, but I feel like this blows it out of the park. The music, the ambience, the sheer eeriness while making your way around the ship really beats a Deep Stone Crypt in my opinion. And it's a jumping puzzle, where the word puzzle makes sense to be in the name. Since at certain points some of your teammates will have to stay back to shoot a crux, to move a platform, or open a door for the rest of your team. Like I said, Bungie really have a talent to making you feel small in this huge massive world. Similar to how the Dreaming City made you feel, but multiplied by 10 in scale. Now we're on to the third encounter. A very chaotic mess, but it's one of those fun messes where you can make it substantially easier by assigning roles for the whole encounter, but what's the fun in that? My team decided to just vibe this day one. It worked, after a good few runs, but this is definitely going to be my preferred strat for farming this raid. Once again, it took the fun parts out of third encounter Deep Stone Crypt, where it was just a chaotic mess, and once again they expanded into a large scale, with each section adding more and more complexity. It was a big, big fan, at not only the difficulty, but the fact you had to stay on your feet after every wipe due to random spawn locations. Then comes the door, which to this day I still have no idea how to open, but oh well, I'll learn one day. And then the reveal, Rulk the Disciple. Possibly one of the best raid bosses Bungie has ever made. Yes, better than Riven. Yes, better than Oryx. This doesn't feel like a Destiny boss, but more of a Souls-like MMO style boss fight. Stomp mechanics are no more. Instead, he will kick you. I would love to see more bosses like this going forward, because I did kill this boss with contest off, and the mechanical difficulty is still there to a point. Obviously, give it a few weeks, and most people on LFG will also be rolling through this boss, but as long as no cheeses are found, this fight will definitely remain tough. They took the part of Riven and raids going forward of one team communicating crucial information to another team, combined that with a slowly expanding fighting area while managing buffs and adds, as well as damage in a room you have not been in. A masterpiece to a certain extent. Now, since contest has been turned off, I do have one gripe. I still wish the kick of the boss would one-shot you instead of only dealing half HP. But that's about it. The fully on-the-move fight was fun, something different than Tanix's stand in a well till final stand. Riven Well, legit slightly different, but I don't think anyone runs it that way anymore, and most people just swing a sword. Atheon, stand in a well. Here, you could stand in a well and have one person bait the boss, but even then it's not the same. Will my opinions change once I run this raid for the next couple of weeks and learn some new strategies? Probably, but as of right now, this is one of the best raid experiences in Destiny, and it's not even close. It really solidified Witch Queen in a good way. Now, we can't talk about the raid and not touch on the secrets that are currently being found. First, a bonus chest at the boss that guarantees a raid weapon for completing a small puzzle as you make your way through. A second puzzle that has a lore explanation where each run during the jumping puzzle, different symbols show up, and as a community you have to match the full board. And a lot of collectibles and other stuff. There is also the raid exotic, which luckily I managed to get on my first completion, but I still haven't used it too much. It comes with the exotic perk Umbral Sustenance, which drains void divas from enemies and then shoots them back at them. It's a fun exotic, but I really don't think it's going to be as game breaking or necessary like Cough Cough Anarchy and Divinity. And finally, there's Post Raid Mission, which unlocks some more lore about Rulk and also is the quest which is required to obtain the exotic glaives. I'm gonna talk about them in a different video, but I feel like the mission will expand week over week, giving us more and more insight. In conclusion, I believe Bungie has set the new bar for all future content releases. The new raid, campaign, and just the general feel of the game has been a huge success, and I hope they can keep this momentum going into the next seasons, Lightfall, and beyond. Massive props to the Bungie team. I don't know what happened, but over the last year they have really been going hard. And all from home. Just think about what they can do when they get back to the office. Anyways, this has been my first impressions of Vow to Disciple, some raid weapons, and the new mission. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.